contrary to the claims of the naggers and the heel biters within the MAGA movement, Donald Trump is not going to Switzerland to play nice with the Davos men. He and his team are arriving with a fully activated American system alternative to their policies of globalism and imperialism, and he will be laying down the terms of surrender. Now, he's already laid down some covering fire before his team heads out, hitting them exactly where it hurts, their networks of soft power. Just 3 days ago, the White House released a new finding withdrawing the United States from 66 international organizations, conventions, and treaty. Marco Rubio made clear they're pulling the plug on what he called a sprawling architecture of global governance, which, as he put it, serves the same elite networks of the multilateral NGO complex. And then Rubio drilled down on what this apparatus really is. He said, from DEA mandates to gender equality campaigns to climate orthodoxy, many international organizations now serve a globalist project rooted in the discredited fantasy of the end of history. These organizations actively seek to constrain American sovereignty. Now, the organizations that the U.S. is withdrawing from include the full gamut of green enforcement institutions that have been set up in the last few decades to enforce the carbon dioxide is poison policy, which is supposed to make nations deindustrialize. Also, some of these institutions that we're withdrawing from go all the way back to the very foundation of the UN in the late 1940s. And if you go back to the early days of the UN, you'll find people like Julian Huxley letting it all hang out as to the British plans for the UN, which, by the way, were contrary to Franklin Roosevelt's intentions. Huxley was the grandson of Thomas Huxley. Julian became the first head of UNESCO. First, he laid out what the purpose of UNESCO was. He said, in its educational program, it can stress the ultimate need for the transfer of full sovereignty from separate nations to a world organization. Huxley also had the slightly more delicate task of repackaging one of the empire's most evil policies, race science or eugenics. Huxley and many of the other card-carrying eugenicists became founders of the environmentalist movement, which ultimately metastasized into the green fascist organizations that the Trump administration just shut down.